What's up, YouTube? Here with a individual episode of Bodybuilding Business. I'm doing this separately from the main podcast because I'm going to share my screen to show property valuation calculator. This will tie into what we talked about the last episode about buying in a commercial property, 20% down, what's real income, what's total income, what's phantom income, what's your cash flow, what's it mean to be cash flow positive, what's it mean if you're cash flow negative. Maybe we'll get into what talking about cap rates and things like that. But we'll get started right away. I'm going to bring up a spreadsheet that I've called Storage Unit Calculator. And this is made by this guy here, Brian D. Williams, not to be confused with Billy D. Williams. But, okay. We'll use it's got a more advanced version and then a simpler version. But if anyone's watching here, it looks like, oh no, I can't remember where I found this. I thought it was the website biggerpockets.com, but I went on there to look for it and I could not find it. So I'll see about attaching a link to this so that you guys can get it somehow through YouTube. I'll see if I can figure out how to be that technically savvy. So we'll start here. We're going to do storage units because this is what I talk about mostly on the podcast. And we'll keep it simple, kind of in line with the example I gave, and say you're not going to find these at these prices right now. That's kind of a problem with the housing market's blown up and the real estate market's blown up. But things are always cyclical. It'll come down. I mean, we're very likely going to be in a depression, not depression. Well, maybe very likely going to be in a recession next year, which is confusing because we aren't. You could argue we're technically in a recession because we've had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, but really the economy is doing amazing right now, which seems counterintuitive because certainly doesn't feel that way, but. When you consider the economy to be like jobless rates, and employee compensation's climbing, and jobless rates are plummeting. There's 1.9 job openings per job seeker right now, and a lot of that is probably because employees are just they're trying to hire people, so they're listing 10 different jobs that they might not even need or might not even plan on filling, just trying to get hits on it on the internet. But for whatever reason, there's very low unemployment, and so the reason it feels like a recession is because all those things come together, tied into the shipping issue, the supply chain issues due to COVID. When no one could get any supplies, you're under the issue where companies don't have supply. There's a ton of demand because we poured money into the economy and everyone has jobs and everyone's getting raises, just not in line with inflation. But because of that, everyone has money to buy things. The government gave everyone money to buy things, didn't let us do anything else but buy things because we couldn't do anything. And then the companies had no way to get supplies. So inflation's out of control. It feels like we're in a recession, but we're really not. You could argue technically we are by the two quarter negative GDP growth definition, but really the economy's booming, and that's the real problem. But it'll come back down. The housing market will come back down. The commercial real estate market will come back down. Maybe not down, but it'll stop rising at the level it is. Anyways, we'll start here with these numbers. And I think my mic's a little too loud. I can't really tell. Hopefully, we've had enough problems with sound. We're going to look at a storage unit that's, and I apologize for my breathing. My nose is plugged up for some reason. I probably sound terrible. We're looking at a $200,000 purchase price. We're going to say 2.5% seller concessions, and we're going to say we're going to put $20,000 down. Now, this is the hard part, and this is the kicker. You're not buying you are buying a $200,000 property, but you're not paying $200,000, and so this down payment is always your nut. That's what you have to come up with, and there's ways to come up with it. There's private lending. There's your parents, or if you got anyone's money in the family, or you can your personal savings. If you really wanted to, you could pull from your 401k. If you have, I don't think you can with a 401k, but if you have your own margin account, if you have a brokerage account with any, there's so many brokerage accounts now. If you have a brokerage account with any of those and you have money in that account, you can actually use a margin loan to borrow against your money. What that means is, if you had $40,000 in an account, and you had stock profits that's why you had $40,000, maybe you're up 100% over the last 5 years or whatever. If you sell that, then you have to sell. You get taxed on those profits, and so you don't pull out 40,000. You had 40,000, but when you pull it out, you don't anymore after taxes. Well, what you can do is you can borrow against that money with a margin loan, get the $40,000 out on a loan at very low rates. I mean, sometimes as low as 1%. Right now they're higher because the Fed's been raising interest rates. But even right now, I don't think margin loans are more about 2.5% or 3%, far below inflation. With inflation at 8 or 9%, you're making money on that rate. So there's lots of ways to get that. That's the hard part, and that's the part you have to find out how to do if you want to get into this whole gig. But it's only the first time you have to. Once you get into that, and we talked about that, then this growth of your properties then pays the next one. And then as things snowball, it's like the way rabbits multiply or Fibonacci expansion or any of those things. You have one to start with, then you get a second one. Now you have two growing, and then that goes into four, and that goes into yada yada yada, and it blows up that way. So it's really that first one you have to come up with the money on, and then you're really good to go if you make smart decisions. So let's say we have a $200,000 purchase price, and let's do like the 1% rule. Let's say our monthly renters, if we're fully rented, we get $2,000 in rent. So our annual rent's $24,000. Say our property taxes, I never remember these. My wife handles the property taxes stuff. Let's say $2,500 a year. Let's say insurance $1,500 a year. We don't have homeowners, but we'll have a utilities. Let's say we buy a simple storage unit, maybe some outdoor storage. You can store RVs, but there's no plumbing, no electrical, no heat. So all you have is the construction. So you don't have much utility. You don't got to worry about internet. You're in a small town somewhere. You don't really have to worry about a security too much. So this is maybe $1,000 a year, and we're going to say $5,000 expenses because there's always expenses, and then we'll do $5,000 capex, and we're not going to do a property management, or maintenance. I mean, we kind of lump those in. These numbers are a little high. Let's do $1,000. I mean, that's going to be you're buying bolt cutters or buying WD-40 or buying bug spray or weed killer. That's probably not even going to be that much because we're already doing, let's do 2,000 capex. So those are pretty high estimates for a property this size. So right now, what do we come out with? We have to have 0% vacancy. We're not using a property manager, and our monthly cash flow is negative. So we lose $411 each month. Now the confusing thing, we lose money, and that's the way you think of it when you think of income. Now I wouldn't say this is a smart move. I never buy cash flow negative property right out of the gate. If you know it's cash flow negative, you're not 100% vacancy or 0% vacancy. Bad decision. But we are still $350,000 in total profit at year 15, even though we're cash flow negative. That's because cash flow is like your income, and that's what we always think as money. But wealth and and appreciating assets is a different world than just having an income. You want to be cash flow positive because that means it's not a burden for you to own the property. But even in this case, a little cash flow negative at the start. As property valuation grows up, as your rent will increase, 3% a year or whatever it's set at, you become cash flow positive in year 2, and then at year 15, after you pay off the mortgage. After that, then you're very cash flow positive if you haven't refinanced or if you haven't sold the property. But this is a bad decision, so we're going to have to raise rates, monthly rent. Let's say we have 20 units and we're renting them each at $100 a unit. Those are bad numbers, but they're round numbers. That would be why we got to 2,000. Let's say we're going to do $150 per unit, and you can get that right now with prices going up. Now we have $2,500 a month full rent. Now we're cash flow positive. Barely, but we're cash flow positive. So I want to make this something that actually works so you can see. Let's say we don't have 20 units. Let's say we found a miracle property and we got 40 units. And we can do 40 units at $100 a month, and that's $4,000 a month. Geez, that's too good. Let's just make a possible scenario. Scenario you could find, and it's still Goldilocks, but you could find this you're not going to find this price is the hard price you're not going to get. The percentages you'll find, but so we can get $3,000 monthly rent at 0% vacancy. Now, right away, never assume best case scenario, and your best case scenario should be a bad case scenario. Let's say we assume 90% vacancy. Vacancy, 10% vacancy, so we're 90% occupancy. That's pretty standard. You can most storage units, if it's run well, if it's been around, if people know about it, if you do any advertising at all, if you even put your phone number on a some kind of box in front of the building, you're going to be 90% occupancy with a good storage unit. Then now we're cash flow positive. We are now a business worth buying for wealth, not worth buying for income, because you're only making $289 a month. But you want that, because this money, we're assuming this isn't your job. This is a way to generate wealth. You have a job, you have your income, you pay your bills from some other means, and this is a way to build for retirement, build for wealth, so you don't have to rely on that income forever. So we have room for error. We have almost $300 a month for if something breaks, if a renter doesn't pay, if this goes to 15%. We're probably not. Yep, we're still positive. So we got room for a couple units to not be filled for a few months, and this is a pretty safe bet now. So we need $40,000, and we're going to get a $200,000 purchase price property. We're going to get at 90% occupancy. We're going to get $3,000 a month in rent. After we pay everything, after our $8,000 a year operating expenses, our net operating income is $24,000. After we pay our debt, our PMI, our annual cash flow is 10%, which is good, and it's $3,500, or about a little under $300 a month. So this is where, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know all these things, you think, I just spent $200,000 for $289 a month. That's the worst investment ever. Why would I want to do that? Well, it's because you're thinking about it the way an employee thinks about it, not the way an investor or a property owner does. You're not paying $200,000. Again, you're paying $40,000. And for your $40,000, and don't think about paying it. This didn't go anywhere. You didn't lose this. This went from whatever bank or brokerage account or shoebox or whatever you had to save in. You transferred that $40,000 from there into the property. So you haven't spent it. That's another thing that's confusing. You have not spent that. You have moved it. You've transferred it to a new bank, where now your bank is this building. And your reward for that is that you get the reward on the appreciation of a $200,000 property, provided you take care of it enough that you maintain your monthly rents and you don't go above about 20% vacancy. Yeah, that's right where our edge case is. So if you only have 80% occupancy, that's when you start. I mean, you're only $11 in the negative, so you could fund that. That's lunch one day. But you have room here for error. Now, why do you do this then? If that $40,000 in a bank account is doing nothing, that $40,000 in bonds, CDs, a couple percent a year, it's doing something, but it's low. That 40% in the stock market, if you have someone manage your money and they're just trying to get you 8%, it's not doing anything crazy. What happens if you put it here and you maintain the property? What's our total profit? Year one, and this is perfect, because this is very similar to what I said with ours. Like our first year, we made $12,000. This sucks. Did we make a mistake? Well, the next year, your total profit is almost $40,000, then 63. At year 10, it's almost $300,000. At year 15, you're at $500,000 total profit. You spent $40,000, and again, you did not spend $40,000. You saved $40,000 at some point in your life, and now you took that $40,000 from whatever bank account or brokerage firm or shoebox or whatever it was in, and you've moved it into this bank account. Now that $40,000 has you making $500,000 total profit at year 15. And this is if you maintain yourself. But this type of storage unit, you're not going to need a property manager. This type of storage unit, you're going to get an old guy that rents a space for his car every summer every winter from October until May, and then he pays all ahead of time, pays for that whole 6 months ahead of time. You never have to worry about him. You're going to get a bunch of people who moved, who have a bunch of extra crap and don't want to give it away, who then keep it in storage for the next 12 years, never visiting, never doing anything with it, until finally they stop paying, and you auction it off after having that for 12 years, and you auction it off and you make money on the sale of that. And you're going to get people who just keep too much crap. You're going to have a couple people who have multiple units just to store their crap. It's going to be filled with deflated footballs, sandals that are ripped, old shoes, their kid's dresser with garbage pail kid stickers on it, and an old deer mount from the 1970s. But that's fine, because You don't care what they put in there. You care about this. That $12,000 year one, which seems like a mistake because you spent $40,000 to make 12,000. In reality, as you did not spend 40,000, you moved 40,000 to make half a million at year 15. And depending on your age, if you make it all the way to year 35, and this is assuming you don't refinance, you don't pull out equity to buy another property, which you should if because it's dead money. Once it's in that, once you've paid off your mortgage, that $200,000 is just sitting there unusable because it's not liquid. You don't get it out until you sell the property or refinance. And there's nothing wrong with that if this is your only goal. If you think, geez, I'm 35, in 35 years I'll be 70. 1.8 million would be nice to have, especially considering the fact that by that time, I'm making $5,000 a month in rent. Maybe I'll already have other retirement. This is all I need. And so in that case, for $40,000 not spent, moved, you have almost $2 million in your retirement age. Or you have $2 million in property value making $5,000 a month at that age. And, that's not going to be enough to live on at that time. But if it's, if it's part of your portfolio, it's a nice chunk of mailbox money, because that's what it is. You get, you're good, depending on what part of the country you're in, storage units, high-end storage units are a different beast than what we're doing. We're doing, no plumbing, no electrical. You're probably in some farm town. You're going to get people paying with Western Union. You're going to get people writing checks every month. You're going to have a couple people who actually have internet and email addresses paying electronically, which is the best because you never even know anything happens. We have one renter in our units who's been renting the same unit since 1997. I don't know what's in there because they never go in there. They pay every month. I'm assuming there's not dead bodies in there, but we have no way of knowing. And the guy spent $30,000 renting a unit that he never visits. And like I said, we have a couple of the car guys. We have a lot of the frequent movers. We have a lot of the hoarders. But either way, they're great because people don't get rid of junk. People are sentimental, and to them it's not junk, which is fine. But this is how I value, this is what I use to evaluate properties. And your main thing, if I can find a link for everyone, it's very simple. You're not going to get these rates anymore. These were the good old days a couple of years ago. So I'm not going to change the numbers because we fudged them anyways to make it work. But if you have a separate brokerage account, you have $40,000 in there, you can borrow against it at 2.5% margin, probably right now, maybe 3% with where things are at. You still have your $40,000 in your account. That account gives you $40,000 free dollars because they know that if you don't pay your margin loan, they got the money in your account. They can just do a margin call and pull the money out of there. So you're a risk-free loan opportunity for them. You use this money to pay your margin loan. And at the end of the day, you've spent $0. You still have your $40,000 in that brokerage account, still earning money on stock growth, and you got $500,000 at year 15, where you can sell the property. You could refinance, pull that $500,000 out. You'll be back into this kind of range where you have barely any cash flow, but you got $500,000 cash to do whatever you want with. Again, because of taxes and stuff, I would advise against that. I wouldn't advise. I'm not a financial advisor, but a financial advisor probably would advise that. And there's tricks that I'm not an expert on, but there's tricks to do, like when you pull money out with equity to roll it over into a loan that it is better tax wise. And a good accountant or a good financial advisor or even a good Google search will help you in that. And so that's all I have on that. About 19 minutes in. I have I don't know if anyone's interested in stocks. I do. I'm going to show this just because I said I want to do at least 20 minutes. Let me find it first. I apologize for the dead time. Jeez. Maybe I won't find it. Bear with me, folks. Sorry. Listen to me breathe. All right, here we go. This opens. If anyone's interested, I can show how to do a price modeling for a company. And this, if you're going to buy stocks yourself, this is, you need to learn to do this, or you should learn to do this. You know, everyone's got into the stock market recently. You know, there's been the big boom. Everyone got money from the government. Everyone got the stimulus money, and everyone, you know, Robinhood was offering free, commission-free trades. You know, TD Ameritrade offers commission-free trades. I think Interactive Brokers does. I mean, they all do now. And everyone got into that mess. Everyone got into it during the crypto boom. So everyone got burnt by it. Everyone got burnt by it because of the tech growth boom and the, you know, outrageous PE ratios that blew up. It's a rough time for probably a lot of people who got their first taste of investing. Luckily for me, my first taste of investing was the 2008 financial crash. So I've been through the hard times already, and was better ready to weather this storm. But the problem with stocks, why people fail, and it seems simple. It's like, well, buy low, sell high. Well, we don't want to buy when it's low, because you don't know anything about the company. You don't know why it's low. You don't know if it's a bad company, and that's the reason it's low. The times you want to buy, the times when everything is signaling you to buy, is when the stock's going up, and that's actually a decent strategy. You can actually build models that show your stock growth, your portfolio growth, if you only buy stocks that have recently reached all-time highs. And the reason, because stocks that reach all-time high most often continue to reach new all-time highs for some extended period of time in the future, because if you're reaching an all-time high, you're typically a good company that's growing. But the problem with that is you buy a stock when it's going up, meaning it's high, and that's what everyone did with crypto, because there's all the hype and everything, and you don't know why it's high. You don't know if it's going to keep going high, and so when it goes down, you don't know why it's low. You don't know if it's going to go even lower, because you don't know anything about the company. And crypto is different, because that's purely speculative. There really isn't anything to know about it other than, you know, social sentiment. But you don't know why it's low. So then the pressure at that point on you as an investor is to sell, because you're panicking. So if you're making a stock move based on someone else's decisions, as I say this, as I give you some stock advice, and it's not advice because I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just an idiot who likes numbers and math. By the time you hear it from them, the move's already over. They did the analysis and saw, hey, this stock's good. This company's good. This company's got growth, 20% CAGR. This company's got, no debt. It's hard to go bankrupt if you have no debt. This company's going to blow up. Let me invest in it. And so they did the analysis beforehand, and they're able to ride that wave. If you rely on someone else's analysis, the analysis has already been done. You're too late. You need to learn to analyze stock yourself, or just buy ETFs, or buy blue chip companies like Berkshire Hathaway when it's down a little bit. But anyways, real quickly, I won't waste too much time. If you guys want more of this, I can go into this more detail. Well, this is Tesla, my favorite stock, because I like tech, and I like that it's controversial, because I don't think people understand the company. And so this is my price model to show why people don't understand the company. So what you do, basically, I'll do a real quick one, and then, because this could be an hour discussion, we have basically what our deliveries expectations were. And I did this in 2020, and you can see how close I got. These were my price targets. I said at the end of 2020 it'd be $700, and I don't remember what it was. It was about 700. Let me check. I feel like the chocolate rain guy. I gotta breathe away from the mic. Yeah, so the end of 2020, it's 220 after the stock split. So that's about 700. So I was, and that's kind of, I set that. I just decided that was a calculation. That's that's that round. I thought I decided that number, but that's so the end of 2020 I was pretty close. And this is when everyone was saying it was outrageously overpriced, because at this point the PE was like 12,000. And then the end of 2021 was 828. I said these calculations, and it's not like I said or guessed. These are numbers. That's the beauty of it. These are their actual sales. Their actual sales in millions of each product, their revenue, and you can find these numbers, their year-over-year growth sales, their revenue, their EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxation, depreciation, and amortization. Very important to learn. Your EBITDA as far as a percent, and then in total dollars, how many shares are outstanding. And you put, these are just the numbers, their earnings per share, and then you take, your forward and trailing PE, and you just basically you just calculate a number, a market cap and a number based on that. And typically, like at this point, the PE is really high. That's price per earnings, meaning people know it's a growth stock. They're willing to pay more, even though it has low earnings, because they know they'll lock in those shares, and then at some point in the future, the earnings are going to be higher, and they'll get a benefit on that purchase. And then at 2021, I said it'd be about 830. It was about that, I think about 850. So yeah, what's 350 times? Geez, I'm a math guy. I can't do 350 times 3. Yeah, I was quite a bit under. So yeah, so it was over that price there. And now I said at the end of this year, 1,500, which should be about, because it's did a triple split, about $500 a share. So, and you can see the growth I have. And this is why people who've actually played with the numbers like Tesla, and you think, Tesla's more valuable than all the other car companies combined. Why is that? Well, because if you value them as a car company, you're going to get it wrong. Like Ford, I think, makes like 7% margins, GM 7 to 11% margins, where Tesla's already over 28% margin, and I think I have them estimated at 40% margin at their peak. I mean, they're just a cash cow right now, and they're going to be in the future. But you run these numbers, and then this is my base case. This is if full self-driving never becomes a thing. If everyone doesn't know full self-driving, that's like the fully autonomous driving, which I don't see how it doesn't become a thing. Technology happens. The future always happens. Flying cars didn't happen, but that's because that's really not, that wasn't the future. That was like a hope. You can't, it's hard to traffic flying cars, and there's only so much space. Like space starts at like 50 miles above Earth. There's not that much space. There's much more space underground, and so like what's much more likely to fight congestion is that we're going to travel under the ground. And and actually Elon Musk has that Boring company. I don't think anything is really going to come of that anytime in the near future, but that's probably what's going to happen with travel. And then I think very clearly it's going to be autonomous. I think my great grandkids will think it's crazy. They'll never know that a steering wheel was ever in a car. And I think they'll think it's crazy that we used to drive around 4,000-pound hunks of metal at 80 miles an hour right next to each other. They'll think that's absurd. But we think it's absurd that a computer would drive. But the first calculators came out, and people wouldn't trust the calculations. They thought, we don't trust ourselves. We know the calculator is going to get the right answer provided we type it in correctly. The same thing with computers. People wouldn't trust the calculations the computers did. Same thing with automatic transmissions. People thought, I'll never stop manual shifting. There's no way a computer can shift as fast as me. A computer can do everything better than us once it has the proper processing power, proper capabilities. And not even considering quantum computing, the way neural networks are currently, the autonomous driving is just going to happen. To think that computers will never be intelligent enough to do it is kind of outrageous in my mind. Whether that's in the next 10 years, though, is very debatable. Certainly I don't think it's going to be in the next couple of years like Tesla claims. So this is my base model, where I need to redo this for the stock split. I already did it once because I first started doing this before the last stock split. But so 8,500 divided by 3. So almost $3,000 a share. When it's under 300 a share, it's just right around $300 a share right now. So 10x basically in 8 years as my base case. Now my bull case has 14,000 or almost $5,000 a share stock split adjusted. And the bull case takes into account the consideration that full self-driving actually is a thing. And I have, and it's a little off on this, but the end of 2022, I said there'd be 500. No, I think that's about right. 500,000 cars paying for full self-driving. You have to have a certain safety score. I think about 100,000 people have access to full self-driving currently. But then you can see the growth here. And then I think by 2024, the end of 2024, so technically 2025, I kind of designed that poorly. It looks like, but it's really like a year ahead. I have the global light vehicles that about 750,000 global light vehicles will be licensing full self-driving. And I think if it's functional, taxi services and things will definitely license it. And these are the licensing fees, which they are currently. It was $199 in 2021, the last time I updated this fully. These are the prices in 2021. And then semi also, which I think absolutely semi will have full self-driving. And I think the semis will be a thing sooner rather than later. I've seen, I mean, when I used to work at Eaton, and we saw some limited data, some limited CAN data, and it looks like they're definitely going to be, they're going to have enough mileage to be a functional semi, and definitely the power. So that's what you do, and you just take the numbers. And I can go in this, like I said, more in detail if anyone's interested in this. I don't know if you guys like investing. It seems like people have really got into it recently. Probably maybe not stay that way because people got into it because we were stuck at home and we were getting stimulus checks and the stock market was booming. It's not quite so fun when things are the way they are right now, but the way they are right now is what makes people money. People lose money in 2020, 2021 when the stock market's booming because it doesn't, the bubble burst. People make money if they keep investing after the bubble burst, which is all right now. But if you invest in good companies, and if you don't know why you're invested in a company, a good rule of thumb is, don't if you invest in a company that you'll sell the stock if it goes down, rather than be excited that the price has gone down because you can buy more. You don't trust that company. You shouldn't be throwing your hard-earned money at it. If you're going to do that, just buy an index fund, the SPI, SPY, VOO, or anything your financial advisor recommends. If triple Q maybe even, but if you love a company and you understand a company and invest in what you know. This is what I did as an engineer was vehicle data, test engineering, test and controls engineering. I wrote the code for download stations for the transmissions for Eaton's automated manual transmission semis. So this type of thing, I'm not an expert in neural networks, but I'm interested in them, and I'm interested in computer technology. And so this is the things I feel like I understand a little bit, but better than maybe people who haven't had my science background. If you're a builder, if you're a home builder, you go with building stocks. Buy U.S. Steel. Buy lumber commodities. Because you'll understand why prices are high and why prices are low, or you'll have a better macro understanding of why things are the way they are. If you're in the restaurant industry, buy restaurants. If you own stores, right now actually an interesting. If you look at Dollar Tree or Dollar General, I think nearly 50% of all new brick and mortar stores in the United States are dollar stores. And then Dollar Tree bought one of the dollar, I don't remember what they're called, one of the other dollar somethings. And I think right now their PE is lower than Dollar General, but I think their revenue growth is lower. And so if you own stores, you're going to know those things. You're going to know why Walmart is up or down, or if Walmart's a good buy still, or why Costco is up or down, and if Costco's a good store. If you're in, farming, you're going to understand things about that. If you're in energy, you're going to understand, like if you work in the oil pipelines and you saw Occidental Petroleum down, it was like under $11, like earlier in the year, and that Russia's about to go to war with Ukraine, and there's going to be issues with oil, and oil prices are going to go sky high, and you work that for a living, you're gonna load up at Occidental at $11 a share, and it recently broke $70 a share, and you'd be rich. So don't invest in what other people tell you. Invest in what you know, what you trust, and then if it's a stock that you wouldn't be excited to see the price go down because you got to buy more, then it's not a company you believe in for the long haul. And if you're buying it because someone else recommended it, like if you're buying Tesla because I recommend it, definitely don't, because it's a volatile stock and it's going to go. It always goes all over the place, and that'll continue. But the reason I buy it is because if you look at the numbers, and here's my market cap growth. This is my base case. It's my base case. This is where full self-driving eventually comes into play, but it's not a real playmaker. The AI, that Tesla bot never happens. But they get 40% margin, and they maintain the majority of the EV market. And then this is what I have their market cap at in 10 years. This is my bear case would be that they end up just being another player in the EV market. But the EV market's going to be huge because by this time every car is going to have to be an EV, and so they're first. And typically you either got to be best or you have to be first. And if you're first, you don't have to be best to be a profitable company, especially when you're running 40% margins. And that 40% margin number is really independent of full self-driving, more or less. because they're already nearing on 30%, so they're going to hit those numbers, and that's my bear case. And so you can see even that case, if I hold my worst case scenario from all the calculations I did, which are numbers this is my bear case, which is numbers I trust, then it's going to be a good investment for me. And then your home run would be your bull case, which would be you can see this is kind of the inflection point at the end of this year, whether or not they actually have 500,000 cars with full self-driving. And the tricky thing is they do. They just don't have 500,000 cars using full self-driving, because full self-driving is not ready for prime time yet. But somewhere around here, you can see 2024, the end of 2024, which is really 2025. I think that's going to be the inflection point. If full self-driving is valid, you're going to have fleets of robo-taxis at some point here, 2027, 2028. And that's going to be it's going to be the largest company in the world. If it's not, it's still a good company. And my bear case is that it's just an EV company with great margins, well run, with great management. Use money wisely, use debt wisely. It's still going to be a safe investment for me. I'm still getting 10% a year. And I have a disaster case, which I always do, just because I want to know, okay, at what points do I say, I got to bail on this stock? It was, excuse me, I know I said I was going to buy if it went down, but it went down in a way that I knew it was going down for bad reasons. And this is that my disaster case was that my assumptions, no full self-driving fleet at all, really. Oh no, that's carried over from my base case. This is basically full self-driving is a dud. They don't, GM comes along and kills the EV market, and they get great margins, but they lose market share of the EV market dramatically every year. The Tesla bot is a waste of time and ends up costing them money, and they don't use debt well. And you can see they kind of climb, and then they level off kind of at the end of this year, which is, it still seems, I would revise this and I would kick this forward several months, but they are kind of at an inflection point. They need, full self-driving's been around. We've got nearly a year with some people having access to it. There needs to be, they got Dojo will be functional, their new chip. We need to see something for full self-driving. And if we don't, and then at this point, GM or something comes along and produces a banging EV with better mileage, better power, better everything, cheaper, then they're going to start declining and they're going to level off. And they'll still be a company that does well, but they're just going to be a flat company. And at that point, that's, from a high of 700 a share to somewhere in the 400s, it's money that's not coming back. So I always do a base case for what I think is most likely to happen, assuming nothing, like no major enormous technological breakthroughs like full self-driving that completely revolutionize the world. But that doesn't happen, but they're a good company. And I do a bull case, which is all the things that they're trying to do come true, because it's exciting. If that comes true, I want to know what's going to happen to me. And then a bear case, meaning the things that they're doing already, they continue to do, but other companies come along and do it roughly as good. And then the disaster case would be they don't continue doing as well as they already are, and other companies come along and do better than them. And that's it. That's how to do a property valuation. And then I spent way longer than I said I would, but I can come back to price modeling if anyone's any interest in that. I don't know if you do, or if you do, you might not want to hear it from a dumbass like me, but I love talking about it. So thanks for your time. Remember to like, subscribe, click notifications. We got tons of new content coming out, new channels, new podcasts. Oh, not new channels, new podcasts on this channel. And keep giving us your feedback. Let me know what you like and what you don't like. Thanks.